again, everybody. Welcome to Good to Know Shreveport Bossier. This is a podcast showcasing the good things happening in our community. My name is Jeff Binefor. This is Paul Reeser.
Well done.
Reeser, spelled improperly, but it's Reeser. Former president of the Reeser Group, Sonic Management, all that stuff, and a committee member of the Committee of 100. He's a board member. And every week we're going to be focusing on the economic development, community growth, and other topics about initiatives having a positive impact on our community. New episodes every other Wednesday, and you can find Good to Know wherever you listen to podcasts. Today our guest is Dr. John George. He's the president and CEO of BRF. That's an economic development organization. Your bio is about as long as my arm, so I'm going to just let you tell us about yourself a little bit.
More impressive than your arm, though, Jeff. No offense.
I'll tell you guys, I'd rather skip about talking about me and go straight to the BRF. That's why I have all this gray hair. I have way too many stories.
Well, and definitely I want to get to the definition of BRF because that's interesting. It's an economic development organization, which is doing great things in Shreveport. But you do have a very unique background, at least in the fact that you're a medical doctor and you're a very successful business person, and you've found, bought, developed, and grown over 20 hospitals in your past. So I mean, you have a good resume, an excellent resume. The right arm is pretty good. You got a pretty good arm.
It's all right down here.
So I appreciate wanting to get into the information, but I just want people to understand that you are a pretty remarkable and impressive guest. I don't know what the heck you're doing on this show.
I call if anything, I'm lucky. I say I'm a product of Shreveport because I went to school here. I went away for a little bit. I came back. I went in the oil business. I got a degree from Centenary, a geology degree, and I was in the oil business for 8 or 9 years.
Right.
Of course, in the worst time ever. And I went back to medical school because we had a medical school here, and I think this is the thing that Shreveport people need to know about Shreveport is like, if you want to do anything in the world, it's right here to train you, to get you ready to go out in the world. And when I got my medical degree, I also had this background of being in the oil business. You're sort of an entrepreneur. I mean, if the oil and gas guys will tell you that's all they do is find a new company to drill, go do it, and raise the money, do the operations, satisfy all the investors. And so that's sort of the same thing as we sold Life Care was the name of the company, hospital, and we sold the idea of Life Care just like an oil deal. And so it like I said, it trained me. I trained at LSU. I think it's one of the finest institutions in the South. It certainly gave me the ability to walk in anywhere and people realized I knew what I was talking about because of my training at LSU.
And just a side note, LSU is what do you call that? Phase 1 emergency hospital.
Level 1 trauma center.
Which there's not very many of those in the country.
Right. No.
So you had a BRF. It stands for Biomedical Research Foundation.
Yeah. So.
And yet it's a economic kind of an organization. So explain the dichotomy there.
Yeah. So when they first started in 1986. It was, we still have the same mission statement they had in 1986, which is to build and diversify our economy. And of course, that's because the oil business was in such trouble during those late 80s. And so they thought, well, we need to do something. Well, one of the first things, I don't know if y'all remember, Pennington was being built. And so the forefathers of the BRF, Horace Lademan, Virginia Sheehy, and the rest of the crew, I'm sure there's plenty of names I'm leaving off, Don Jones, Bill Petrus. I mean, a lot of the guys, they said, hey, what can we do to jumpstart our economy? And the easiest thing to do was to leverage LSU. They had great assets. They went through the fight to get the med school here, and they said, now we need to build it. And so they formulated this idea with J. Bennett Johnson to bring in Department of Energy money. That was back when earmarks were popular, and they earmarked the cyclotron and the radiopharmaceutical manufacturing business. And then what they did is they built a 180,000 square foot research building around it to house it. And of course, we lease that to LSU, and they do all their research there because they said we can't do research if we don't have good lab space. And so that was one of the problems they were solving. and that was all out of the Belden Daniel report they did that actually opened the port up and the BRF.
Yeah.
And so we did that for years. And when I actually was a board member when Bobby Jindal tapped me to take the public hospital private. And so my job was to find a purchaser for the public hospital. So we finally, it became clear that most people wanted it to stay local. So that left Christus and Willis Knighton. Christus was going through their downsizing. I mean, right at that time, they shuttered in 2013 the St. Mary's campus. And Willis Knighton was the only player, and we went down that road. And I think it was like April 2013 that they backed out of the deal because it was just difficult to get your arms around. And he felt like he would have some antitrust case.
Taking a public hospital private, that was, I mean, it was ambitious. Some people thought it was a great idea. Some people thought it was a terrible idea. And you were the person, basically, you were the guy that said, I'm going to handle this. Or you kind of stepped up and were a major part in the transition of that, right?
One thing I was doing this for like 30 years. So,
right.
So Aaron Selber and Donald Zadek and Ike Muslow sort of were my mentors on the LSU side. They're the ones that encouraged me to get on the board of LSU, Board of Supervisors of LSU, to take care of our hospital up here. I mean, they realized that our LSU Medical Center and hospital were, one of our biggest economic drivers, and we needed to take care of it. So they encouraged me to do that. I was on an advisory committee for 10 years before that with Aaron Selber put me on. I worked for Mr. Zadek in the oil business for 8 years, so I was close to Mr. Zadek. And so those two guys were the ones that really sort of set the stage to try to do something for LSU and the medical school to make it a better place.
So I've been down to your facility a couple of times. Pretty impressive, I might add. It's pretty neat. But I was down there to do some stories on the EAP. What am I trying to say? The
Entrepreneurial Celebration Program.
And young kids really were coming up with some really cool things for the future. So you have various units within BRF. Kind of explain some of those, and then that EAP program.
Yeah, so to answer your first question, the reason that we changed our name, really, we're the Northwest Biomedical Research Foundation, and it sort of limited us. And so when I came back, took over the hospital, and my job was to find an operator, which we ultimately found Ochsner's was the group to come in. I realized that there were things missing that LSU needed on the outside, and one of those things was what I call translational medicine. I don't call it, that's the terminology for it. It's translational medicine, and that's taking things from the bench top to the market. And as you'll see, there's a big case for the New Orleans Hospital, New Orleans Cancer Center, to be the NCI, National Cancer Institute designation. And one of the things that you need to have that designation is a translational medicine component to it, where you can take things that are drugs that are found out to the market. And so when I first took over the hospital, I knew that I wouldn't be operating the hospital forever. So one of the things that we wanted to do was start the Entrepreneur Acceleration Program, which had sort of always sort of been there in theory, but it wasn't practicing. And so, I set it up. I brought Dave Smith in from Washington, D.C. There's a fellow named John Sibley Butler who would always be in the at the LSU games with me at the Lyde Cook Hotel, and I would always hear him talking about entrepreneurship. And one time I brought him in. I said, "Hey, I want to talk to you about. I think you got my shower mic'd. You're talking my language and my ideas." And come to find out, John Sibley Butler was the first band member, African American band member of the LSU band, and he was the reigning director of IC Squared, which is the Entrepreneur Acceleration Program for University of Texas. Okay. So it couldn't have been a better match. And so and talking to John, I hired him to come up and help with Dave. And we were running the hospital at that time, so I had Alvarez and Marsal was our consultant out of New York. And so I had them bring in their financial analysts to help us model what we were trying to do. And John's middle name is Sibley, like Sibley Lake, and Natchitoches. And so Dale Sibley was the CAO of the city. And he saw him out at dinner, and he said, "What are you doing here?" And he goes, "Well, I'm trying to help these guys stand up a entrepreneur acceleration program." And Dale Sibley was Cedric Glover's CAO, and said, "What can we do to help?" And so that sort of like, well, money always helps, and so they gave us some money. From them giving us some money, the Caddo Parish Commission gave us some money, and we launched the entrepreneur acceleration.
So if I'm like, I have an idea. I come to you and say, I've got whatever for some new kind of widget.
Right.
Help me get this thing off the ground. How's that work?
Right. So you can come to the BRF. There's lots of different ways you can do it. We set up a program called the Launch Network. I want to give Dave Smith the credit for this. Dave set up the Launch Network where you can go on the internet and go to Launch Network and type in whatever you're doing and whatever you want, and it comes to the BRF. And then we've made a partnership with 87 economic development organizations across North Louisiana, and we screen them and we get them to the right place. And then the ones that fit what we do stay at the BRF, which are, we want things that are going to stay in Caddo Bossier Parish. We want DeSoto and Webster also. That's sort of our region. We want it to be expandable, and so it's not just a one Sonic. It's 20 Sonics, and so we want
never heard of it.
Yeah, and we want some presence here, the headquarters. We're not opposed to for people that have something that's going to go outside our area, but we want the headquarters and the money coming back here. I tell people all the time, Life Care is a perfect example. We had 3 hospitals in Shreveport, but we had 20, or 7, 8. 18. We actually had 21, so we had 18 out other places. And those 18s, the reason we brought a lot of money home and spread it around to a lot of investors that helped us get off the street. So that's the process that we think, and we try to help these guys do it.
Well, you guys are into all kinds of stuff. I'm looking through the notes here. Digital Media Institute.
And I think just kind of a summary, because I watched your video. If you go to the website, go to the BRF website and watch this 10-minute video that kind of gives a summary of all the things that you're involved in.
Right.
And the last thing you say, I wrote it down here because the memory, Anyway,
yeah, we know. Go ahead.
BRF is one of the most misunderstood organizations in the community. And I think that starts out with what it started out as a biomedical research, and now it's all the economy. But let's talk about just some of the different resources, because you guys go out and you attract businesses and bring them in.
Right.
You have an incubator, basically, is what it sounds like to me, where you can take local entrepreneurs who have an idea. Like Jeff brings you his widget, his weather widget, sports forecasting widget.
Yes.
And
it works well.
all those things.
Right.
But then you not only help them get them to the resources to develop it, you also try to help them give resources to keep that business here locally.
Right.
It's fascinating. So what are all the different areas that you guys really are involved in? Just kind of overview.
Yeah. So we manage 400,000 square feet of real estate, and most of it's specialized real estate. So we don't compete with our local real estate guys, but like we have all this lab space, and even the Intertech was lab space, and we've changed it over to incubator space. And so we have an incubator, we have an accelerator, we have all the pieces and parts, for innovation. And so, from that 400,000 square feet, that's where we derive our revenue, and then we use that revenue to help the city, help entrepreneurs, help. We believe that wealth creates wealth. So, the people that have the money are willing to spend it in Shreveport to help local entrepreneurs do what they need to do is a beautiful thing. I mean, I give Shreveport all the credit for my success because I raised, born, trained here, went off, opened these hospitals up, went the venture capital route, saw the things, and I want to bring it back to my hometown.
Yeah.
I'm not the only guy that wants to do that. There's
Yeah.
Right.
lots of guys that want to do that.
Do you have any, off the top of your head, might be putting you on the spot here, any success stories through these programs?
We got tons of success stories. You know, and when I say guys, I mean guys and girls. We have
Sure.
guys and girls. We have, you know, all races. Everybody's welcome at the BRF. You cannot, one of the things about what we do, and I try to tell my guys, is that you can't, you know, it's not cookie cutter. Everything is a little bit different. You know, if you're selling Sonic, it's not the same thing as selling a medical device. And so you got to have those operational nuances to know. And so what the BRF really is we're a support group, but we're operational savvy. And so all the guys that work for me, all are operational savvy. And so we have operational meetings every month. Into that, we have, you know, our finance guy that's a comptroller that's in there. So we have. Reason we can do so much, you asked, is we have these resources, and then we let our executive directors have their budget, and we let them run, and then we monitor, and we say, okay, this is what we want you to hit. Like DMI's Digital Media Institute, that was organized when the movie business and the tax credits, and we didn't have enough support for the movie business, and of course, you know, we still don't have enough support.
Right.
But those guys have grown from one course, and now they teach 4 courses. They're 2-year courses. They've spread out to all over the state, and this year we spread out all over the United States. And we'll have our largest class, and we'll have about somewhere close to 60 people learning about digital media, programming for gaming, social media stuff that they teach. I mean, I'm not an expert in any of these things, but I have an expert that does that. So Digital Media Institute is one of those things that we started because we saw the need. And it's
cutting edge. We're talking 3D, video production. People are doing, like you say, it's all digital reproduction, but it's used in the movies because most movies now are mostly digigital.
That's right. And so
it's an amazing facility. Right here in Shreveport. Come on.
We have a green room. People make their, do all their stuff.
I'm good in the green room, man.
Yeah, well,
I'm great
they
there.
can make it up in the background for you.
And then I'm seeing now this sounds more like biomedical research, Center for Molecular Imaging and Therapy.
So that's the original focus. When J. Bennett Johnson got the earmark, put it here in Shreveport, it was to do radio manufacturing. It was the one of 4 in the United States. So it was absolutely cutting edge in 1995. Now we made one drug, which was called FDG, and we go into that. I'll fumble that up. But it's become a commodity. Okay, so instead of competing with everybody in the world and doing our imaging, which the manufacturing is different than the imaging. The imaging we do for LSU and Ochsner's, we're their PET scan imaging facility. But the radiopharmaceuticals, we make 17 new products now, or let me rephrase that. We're still in the process of moving into the new facility. When the new facility's here, we'll be able to make 18 new products, and we can make those all at the same time. We have a capacity, right now we can do maybe 1 or 2 at the same time, and we have to shut down our FDG to make fluorodopa and some other things like that. Now we can make 18 all at the same time. If we would probably never need to make that many, but we make radiopharmaceuticals that are used in the regular PET scan, in gene therapy, cancer research, and cancer treatment. So it's more, they're building molecules over there to image, they're building molecules over there to treat, and we're sending molecules, right now we're sending molecules to up to Boston. So they're doing research in Boston, and they have to come to Shreveport and get our stuff. In fact, our physicist is from Duke, and he gets a big kick out of jabbing his buddies at Duke because we're sending drugs to Duke for them now. And so that's to
the world famous Duke Medical School.
Right. And so we've maintained the cutting edge by building this new facility and fostering these new, what I call boutique radiopharmaceuticals.
I mean, the variety of things that you guys are involved in is staggering and very impressive.
Well, it's because we have good leadership. You know, like I say, I'm a jack of all trades, a master of none. But I think I have good people, and if you look at the people that we put in these spots, they do really good jobs. The Gargs who built the center for us recently retiring, but they've set it up where, you know, all the people underneath them, we're running, you know, with no hiccups. We're still putting this together, and we're going to be recruiting a you know, nationally known scientist in. We've been talking to Oshers to help us, and I'm hoping LSU will get involved in it, and you know, to find the right guy for the cutting edge of whether it be, you know, cancer research, cancer treatment, or gene therapy, which, you know, I would never even imagine that radiopharmaceuticals be gene therapy. So
what are all these high tech developments? You're bringing in this scientist, you're bringing in people to work at the BRF. What impact is that having to bring in these type of, you know, high paying jobs, and then also the businesses that you're helping develop? What are they bringing in as far as economic development?
So that's a great question, because most people don't.
I don't believe it.
Most people don't. What the BRF really does is we're building ecosystems. Okay, we're building the ecosystems in each area. So when we see there's a hole in something, like if we see the Digital Media Institute would be a perfect example. We see we have, you know, they give them plenty of tax credits. They got a building over there, but do they have the workforce to do it? Right. No. So we put that effort in there, as some of our other local colleges. You know, so we all are trying to fill this in. But that's just an example of what we do in the science area with healthcare. Well, so, you know, we have I don't know if Alpha Sigma building. We have a manufacturing Alpha Sigma. They recruited Hershey's. Hershey sold Alpha Sigma. We have them there. We're out recruiting now. Well, I'll tell you about Shreveport Next, and we target industries that we try to help bring to help fill in these holes to diversify our economy. That's what we were built to do, so that's what we're doing.
That would, by the way, I don't know if you've ever thought about it, but that would be an incredible marketing phrase. We build ecosystems.
Yeah.
You would get people's attention with that.
Well, that's what we do. I mean, so we'll take that. Hope somebody's watching that in my office.
We build ecosystems.
Right.
I mean, even if you're not paying attention, that's going to grab your attention.
Well, I think people, like I said, we're very misunderstood. I know when they were recruiting Justin for the NLEP, they kept saying, well, you know, you're gonna compete. And we're like, no, we're not. We're not even close to that. We don't even do sites. You know, Justin does a whole different thing, and Justin and I are great friends, and he's doing a great job.
Justin Dixon.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
It's great that all of these different organizations that are doing so much to try to build up and bring attention and bring industry to Shreveport, you're working together instead of fighting against each other.
We're Bossier's working with us. We're going to have a nice announcement coming over in Bossier. We work with the port. We probably have 7 or 8 deals over there, you know, like $200 million worth of deals if you could get them all, you know. And so the port is really a great asset. You know, we go the extra mile. For example, BIA Energy, we're trying to get BIA Energy to put a methanol plant there. It would double the traffic at the port. So it's more than just we want a methanol plant. Yeah. It's like, if we can get this methanol plant, it will double the traffic. It will make the civil engineers pay more attention. It'll give Eric England at the port more Provence about, you know, what we can do at the port and those kind of things. And so that's the BRF does, and we can go through all the things if y'all like.
Well, I mean, all these things, do they all fit under that heading of Shreveport Next? Kind of fill us in.
Well, that's, you know, I think, you know, that's another great question, and we talk about it all the time, whether we change our name totally or not. But you know, Shreveport Next is we recruited an economic development guy to come in and to go out instead of waiting. So, like for a site management person, waiting for somebody to come through LED to bring you a deal. We're out there pinging people, and we'll take anything from 1-person business to, we're saying, about a 500-person business, because I don't want to get into site management, but I want to get companies moving here. And I think we're making great headway. Like we're saying, Shreveport Next, Ryan Culp is our ED, and I don't micromanage Ryan. I give him a budget and I let him go, and he's brought in, he's seen 200 CEOs in the last 2 years. So if nothing else, 200 CEOs know where Shreveport is and know that we're in the game. So where we weren't in the game before, and so I'm excited, and we've had some really good visits. People coming in to look at this. I think we just announced BioFlight. We recruited them from they're a medical AR training group out of Los Angeles, and we recruited them here, and they're going to have about 14 people. They took office space and co-rehab is that what it's called, downtown. And so those are wins. Those are little wins, but they're wins. And I can go, we've started about 80 companies in the last 8 years. We're fixing to have our on the 19th, we're going to have a big unveiling of 11 new companies that we started. And we do more than the companies we put on the wall, but those are the ones that we have contracts with, that we raise money for, and that we have a vested interest in, and they're staying local.
Now you also, I'm assuming, do a lot of work with Barksdale Air Force Base, with the Cyber Command, to try to help bring private companies to work together with them. What's going on with that?
So one of the things, living long enough and having gray hair, I've been in every organization imaginable around the base. And I used to ran the air show when I was the vice president of MAC. I was on the 8th Air Force Committee or Council, and I'm on Barksdale Forward now, and I was on Barksdale Forward in the past. And there's a real, that's another one of our giant economic drivers in this community. So, it's so easy to, if you do it right, to leverage these organizations to bring more business here. So we always have thought that we weren't quite hitting the mark on getting contractors to move here to support Barksdale Air Force Base. So let's say, for example, and I'm probably off on my numbers, so nobody quote me, but $17 billion budget into Air Force Global Strike. How much of that gets spent here? Nothing. Very little. And so we go, so when they want, AR, for example, one of the reasons that we are so invested in DMI is that I think 3 companies just recently that have gotten SBIR grants, so those are small business research grants from the Air Force, are all in AR. So that they're seeing that training their people, use this visual aids can help, and so we've been working with them to help.
Augmented reality.
Just
in case Jeff didn't pick up on that.
So we have
Thanks, man.
what we call
hamburger flipper.
We have BRF Defense, and under BRF Defense we have Collaboration Link, and the reason we call it Collaboration Link is because we work with STRATCOM, we work with Air Force Global Strike, we work with the community. We've finally, I have 2 new tenants in my building, Radiance Technologies, which you may have heard of because of
a little bit.
Radiance Independence Bowl. We've been recruiting them for many years, and they can't have lease space in the BRF now. And Stevenson Stellar, we just recruited them, so those are 2 contractors that we have, and we hope to jumpstart our community with more contractors, and we want to support the contractors that we have. So recently we got $37 million in appropriations, or helped secure $37 million for Air Force Global Strike, and then we work with Air Force Global Strike to get 7 or 8 contractors in Shreveport Bossier that money. And on top of that, Air Force Global Strike gave them another $50 million. So we're now we're up to $90 million in money to be spent by local military contractors.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think we're going to wrap this up in about 5 minutes. But just talking with you here for the last 30 minutes or so, I can tell you're really passionate about what you do and where you're at. And I had a note here that said about a year ago you gave a very impassioned speech about Shreveport Bossier. So tell us about that.
Well, like I said, I'm a Shreveport product. I've done for my family what every everybody wants to do for their families. I've made money, I've provided, and I want to give back. And I'll tell you, when after I went out into the world and raised money, and we sold the Carlisle Group. I mean, I tell people I'm the luckiest man in the world. I sold to Carlisle 3 weeks before Katrina hit and took out three of my hospitals.
Wow.
And so I, seeing that, I realized that you and anybody out there in Shreveport can play with anybody else in the world. If you're trained right, if you're passionate, if you like what you do, you can absolutely do what anybody else does in any other city in this country. And we can do it right here. And I think Shreveport is, it's a nurturing, it's big enough to where you have a little exposure, and it's small enough that you feel like it's a community. And I think that's the secret sauce to raising a good family and breeding great businesses. And there's been many that have come out of Shreveport, and we take it for granted.
I mean, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, I think you've done a lot to demystify BRF for me. Like you said, it is misunderstood, but I think you've done a lot to help us understand. I know you can go to that website. I'm going to put the link in our description to go watch that 10-minute video to kind of really talk about all the things you've done. Very impressive. But I know your goal is the future, building for the future, not just the present or the past. So how would you see, I would say, to kind of wrap up, and then Jeff, of course, you'll ask a great finishing question because he's a professional.
Yeah.
But my question is, how do you see like the near future, like 5 years, 10 years out, what is happening in Shreveport? What's the development in Shreveport Bossier in your view?
I think that Shreveport is poised to be like one of the next great cities in the United States. And you laugh, but I'm not laughing.
I'm not laughing.
That was a happy smile. That was a smile of encouragement.
Well, I mean, everybody like, really?
That was not a laugh.
But we're sitting right here. Kansas City Railroad and Canadian Pacific just made a deal. You can go from Canada to Mexico City direct without changing cars. Okay, we have an international airport here. We know we got I-49, we got I-20, and we might get I-69. And the best thing we have going is the port. And we don't utilize it, and it's been there for 20 years, and we haven't utilized it properly. And I think that you're going to see, with the efforts that we're all doing, that you're going to see a lot of activity. Like I said, we have 7 deals working at the port right now. I know Justin's got some big things coming. And so all this stuff is positive. And as we build momentum, you're going to see it. Even people are going to start noticing. They're going to go, oh, we're sitting on I-20 with the internet corridor. I mean, all fiber comes down I-20. It's just a shoot off here. The railroad, I've already said it, but anyway, and we have the training. You can be a doctor. You can be an engineer. You can do anything that you want right here.
So are these the things when you're trying to recruit businesses here? These are the things you talk about?
Absolutely. We didn't get it, but we tried to get an electric airplane company come in here, and it was pretty big, and the state gave us a lot of money. And I told the guy, I said, look, if you want to go to Wichita or you want to go somewhere where they already have all this stuff and compete, go ahead. But if you come to Shreveport, you're going to be involved in something that's special. And you watch. I'm telling you right now, it's going to happen. And I see it coming. We just have to lay the foundation for it. We have the right mix of people. I mean, our community is multicultural. The base is the largest bomber base in the world, and they bring people in here, and every year we have 600 people or 700 people retiring from Barksdale, and they have all sorts of talents, and lots of them stick.
That's right.
Yeah.
A lot of them stick, and if we had more things for them to stick, they would. If you listen to Radiance Technologies, Bill Bailey's speech at the Independence Bowl the other night, he said, I owe my life to the change in my life to Barksdale Air Force and Shreveport. And this Independence Bowl, I wanted to get my name out, and this Independence Bowl has done it in tenfold. He didn't quite say it like that, but
paraphrasing.
But he's told me that in private, and I told him, I sent him a text, and I said, Bill, you're very gracious, and but it's easy to tell the truth.
Yeah. Look,
you get me fired up, Dr.
Well, I love your energy and your enthusiasm.
It's exciting.
But when you're making these pitches and you're telling everybody all the good things about why they should come here. What are the objections?
You know,
There's always objections, but you have to answer them, right?
yeah. So I think they want people that want to come here want to be on the front edge of something, okay? And it's not, so people are like, well, oh, it's got to be crime that's keeping it. Mm-hmm. Well, you think Chicago does a better job of economic development than Shreveport? I'd say yes. And they got a heck of a lot more crime than we do. They had three, you say, well, per capita, but man, crime is bad in Chicago. I do a lot of business up there, and they had Memorial Day, was it Memorial Day? It was Labor Day. Memorial Day. They had 300, there was 350 shootings in the country, and they had 62 of them or something like that. We had 2. We haven't had a murder in 55 days or something like that. Our crime is bad because we're so used to it being good, but it's like this all over the country. So those are not the stumbling blocks. Our stumbling blocks are our negativity, and we've kind of gone on a campaign. I will tell y'all, I don't know if any of y'all watch Peter Zion, but he's a geopoliticist. We're having him come in January. I think it's the 16th. I'm not sure about that. But he's a futurist. And I think that we need to start looking about what's happening and how we can make it better, how we can improve. Because you and I are probably not going to be here when this thing really improves, but we got to set the foundation so it can.
Yeah,
we got to be in the game.
He didn't point over here at me.
Well, all three of us. Seriously, at some point in time you got to quit, but it's. But I think that we are seeing. I think there's a young crowd that's coming in. There's not a lot of people my age. To be honest with you, there's a lot of older guys, not my age guys, but the younger guys between, I would say, 40 to 30. There's a whole bunch of them coming back, and you keep your eyes open, you're seeing they want change. And I think we need to help them.
Yeah, well, right. With your energy and your enthusiasm and your intelligence, I don't see how you can not help them. So I appreciate you being here with us today.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure meeting you and finding out all about BRF, right?
That's right.
All right. That's
no longer confusing.
I hope not. Thank you, Dr. John George.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us for this podcast. Good to Know Shreveport Bossier, brought to you by the Committee of 100 and KTBS Television. Remember to tell your friends and colleagues about the podcast. We'll have new content every other Wednesday morning. And for more information, you can check us out at goodtoknowsb.com. So have a great day, and let's all continue, like this gentleman, to make Shreveport Bossier the best it can be. And all of that is good to know.